What's up, everybody? It's the HorrorDeconstruction. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, but mostly on YouTube. Give us a like, share, and subscribe with your host, Komp,
The Blue Waffle.
and today we're doing a double film. So, what are these films today?
One dash Ichi 2003, which is a live action, and Ichi the Killer Episode 0 2002, which is animation.
One Ichi, 2003. How Ichi Becomes the Killer. The movie is a prequel to Takashi Miike's Korishiyo 1. Wow, that's very explanatory, and it makes sense. Directed by Masato Tano, written by Sakichi Sato, and based on the manga by Hideo Yamamoto, starring Nao Omori, Teiya, and Chihara Jr. Also, we are doing Ichi the Killer, Episode 0, the animation. Animated prequel to
I
Ichi.
just said that. Better than you.
No, you did. You did the live action one.
I did both.
Oh, that's right. Ichi the Killer Episode 0. Animated prequel to Ichi the Killer 2001, focusing on the origin of the story of the psychopathic killer Ichi. Directed by Shinji Ishihara. Written by Sakichi Sato. Based on the manga by Hideo Yamamoto. Starring Chihiro Suzuki, Senpachi Tsuji, and Sayako Ohara. Although we saw the American dub of it. I've seen actually both versions. A nice thing about that is that Takashi Miike, I think, did the voice of Kakihara in the animation.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah, he did. So I completely forgot about that. But
He
anyway,
seems
let's
like
cover.
Such a cool guy, actually.
So I actually went back to listen to our original review of Ichi the Killer.
Yeah.
We put that episode up 7 years ago. Seven
God.
years ago. Holy Christ. Oh, jeez, Louise. We are truly the worst.
We are dedicated to no one listening to us talk about horror.
So we're going to start out with Ichi 1, which is from 2003, which was a live-action version of this prequel. They're both prequels in a sense. One more... I guess they're both faithful to a point, because I actually reread the comic of the original one, because it is based on a comic, and I was surprised that...
Is it like a long-run manga, or is it like... Just
No, it's like as in chapter-wise, I think they're like 30 pages each, right? And the prequel comic, well, actually, it wasn't like, the comic wasn't made after, it was actually made before the movie that we saw, so...
Oh, okay.
So that it's about 11 chapters in this one, but like, while the other one has 103 chapters. But, having seen...
That's pretty long.
So you saw, you re-saw a recap for Ichi the Killer on Disturbing Breakdowns, right? Which is a good YouTube
that
channel.
Funny.
Yeah, it's a good channel, and he gets a lot more viewers than us. So, so Ichi 1. So One Ichi is an adaptation of the comic book, the original one by Hideo Yamamoto, and it's weird because I remember seeing it. I don't know if I guess I had seen the film or not, or have I read the comic, but I think this was fully the first time I saw the film, because it didn't seem as crazy and violent as the original film, you know what I mean?
Yeah, not even close.
It's not even close, so it's more of a drama, and the comic book, I don't know why, but the adaptation is still a little bit loose from the comic book itself, because the general storyline is that, and also they like mischaracterize Ichi, because I think just because, it's nice to see Nao Omori back as Ichi, even though he's playing like a teenager, but he looks like he's probably 35 or something in the role.
Everybody in there looks like they're 35.
Yeah. So, well, I think they can actually put 17-year-olds doing the things that they do in the movie itself. But
No,
so
I know, but it was like, holy shit.
It's interesting because the movie focuses on the actor Tei. I think he's a Brazilian mix of Brazilian and Japanese. So it was interesting to see like a person of color as a lead in a Japanese film. And in the comic book version, like Dai is there, Dai Amazumi. So what happened is, in context of the comic, Dai was Dai is his name. Dai was like used to bully Ichi when he was younger in school, and the weird thing about the film version of this
seem
one,
like a bully type in the film.
right? He just seems like he just wants to be tough, but he wants to be. He's like this unending.
Like it felt like Yu Yu Hakusho vibes to me. Like
right, yeah. That's all like Japanese school
like at least
stuff.
The
They're all like
part
that.
Of Yu Yu Hakusho, like the first episodes.
They're all sort of like that. Those high school shows about Japan. Like I said, in Japan, they think that high school is the greatest part of their lives because then when they get to reality,
there's like no teachers.
I know,
like,
that's what I thought was interesting.
Just like beating someone to death in school, and like No one
Yeah, it's like
cares.
some weird planet where they have like certain people just don't exist.
I
It's
mean,
so
he's literally
strange.
like throwing people out a window, and then no teacher. He's
Yeah,
back in school the next day.
even in the comic, there was a guy who's like, there was one teacher that a bully says "fuck you," and he's like, oh, he gets scared. But here, there's like
Yeah.
no. Well, I mean, everybody's an adult playing a kid in this movie, but there's no
Yeah.
adults in the film, and so
Very weird.
and it's weird because the characterization of Ichi in both like parts, like the original Ichi the Killer film, and in this, like Ichi's like the sobbing mess, like 24/7. He's just like this
Is
weak.
he not like that in the comic?
He's more like in the comic. He's a little bit more like I don't know how to explain it, but he's sort of like a nobody. He's just like a regular, sometimes cheerful guy or something like that. But he's like a fake.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's fake. But he seems like a vessel, more of like an empty vessel,
So he's
as
more like a
opposed to
sociopath in the comic.
yeah, but not sociopath. I guess sociopath in the way that he's sort of a harmless looking sociopath. Like he's not going
Yeah.
around making demonic faces and shit like that. The only thing is like he doesn't know how to interact with people, and he has like I remember the original film and in the comic book, the same thing is that whenever somebody tries to like have a conversation with him, he doesn't know how to act around people, so he puts on this really fake smile that everybody's like, whoa, what the fuck is wrong with your face? Like he doesn't
Right.
know how to smile and anything. But anyway, in one Ichi, we're covering, I guess, a couple of days in his high school, and what's weird is that they focus on Tay because I guess Tay is a much more deeper character than Ichi is in the comic.
Tay is
So
Mr. Dai or whatever.
yeah, sorry, Mr. Dai, and
Yeah.
Tay was an actor who was in a couple of Takashi Miike films. He was actually in a couple of really good ones. Anyway, back to this. So Dai is this guy who constantly, I guess, is looking to be the toughest in the school. He wants to prove something to
It's
himself.
really just amazing though that they're in a school at that age. Like they're all like
They're like
30
40s.
something.
Yeah, right.
40.
And so what we got to say also, there's no sort of visual appeal compared to the original film because this is obviously shot on video. So
Yeah,
this is
and
like
I don't know. I think we saw probably a bad quality version, but it was very pixelated. Like I'm sure it's not.
Oh
that
no, yeah,
bad
I'm sure of it. Somebody gracefully put this on YouTube for people to watch, which is nice. But this is an era where, like, obviously the difference between Ichi the Killer and this is the shot on video aspect of it, because Ichi the Killer was shot on film and it looked gorgeous and had great editing, and although the graphics sometimes were kind of goofy. Like this, even the crows look so cheap, and this, like when they're flying around, it looked like they had footage of crows and just superimposed it or something,
I
or they
don't
were
think there's actually
computer graphics.
any special effects in this. Really, it's like
Not really,
really
yeah. Well, besides
very. I mean, it's a good story and it's like well done, but it's like
yeah,
they
I
had
think
no budget.
the only effects that they had were sort of prosthetic heads. Like especially when they kicked that one guy in the head and kill him, or
Yeah.
Onizumi, or Onizame. So the storyline essentially, and it's weird because like I do think that Dai was sort of a compelling, interesting lead, but we don't know anything about him. Like in the comic, he's a little bit more flat, as in he's sort of like a typical anime character where he's looking to beat up whoever's being an asshole and stuff like that. He's not. I don't think he's necessarily a bad person. He's probably a bad person because of how he probably bullied Ichi when he was a kid. But he doesn't come off that way here. He seems a little bit just more of aloof, and you don't really know about his character. And he does seem a little bit just.
I
But
kind of like him and his friends. Like they seem.
yeah. They're just
That's
they're
why
like
I was thinking of Yu Yu Hakusho. It was reminding me of what's his face with the red hair. I can't think of his name at the moment.
with that weird greasy biker hair.
Yeah, the main guy. I just can't. Think
What
of his
what
name.
what? Oh, I thought he was.
Just like,
Oh, okay,
like
right,
he's
right.
like this lovable kind of tough guy or something.
Yeah,
Like,
right. I know what you mean. Yeah, so that's a typical sort of I guess senpai character. Senpais are like the teacher and the student kind of characters when
Yeah.
they're young and stuff like that, older and younger and stuff like that, or ranking in class because that's like very important in Japan. And so yeah, they're sort of this drop in for any typical Japanese characters. And so Dai and his two friends and his two friends, like one of them only watches third parts of trilogies and stuff like
yeah,
that.
and the other one had like a grandma perm or something.
Did he?
Yeah, that was the beginning when he was late because he had to get his hair done, and it's like a
Oh,
perm.
right, the grandma perm. And so, they're just dealing with other. Apparently, schools visit each other like they're gangs, and they just beat the shit out of each other and stuff like that.
Yeah, it
Which
seems
is,
like they don't actually learn anything. It's just the class is just people
yeah,
beating each other up.
yeah, and it's funny because in Japan they don't really have housekeepers like in the schools. Like they train the kids to clean up the school at the end of the day.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's like they make everybody do everything. Like they got everything over. They got like fencing and well, not fencing. I
I
forget
was
what that's
looking. No,
called.
I was looking into it once because I was considering doing like the jet program, which is like a way
You should
to.
still do it. That'd be right. But yeah, if you ever look up,
Honestly, the more I look about the work culture, the less I want to go. I'm gonna go on vacation, like for sure.
yeah, for sure,
But
yeah. So if you
like
ever look
the work
typical high
culture,
school,
Jesus.
if you look up typical high school day in Japan, then you can definitely see that stuff. So what we're dealing with here is an issue of one guy's. I mean, we're going into this film knowing about who Ichi the killer is, and then I guess we're partially trying to find an answer of why he is. We don't really get
Yeah.
that answer. We just sort of see Ichi is this force because we just know that he's the loaded gun in the room. Chekhov's gun, that he's going to be used in some aspect. So
I
I
guess
think
whenever
that
he gets horny and scared, he becomes a superhuman.
actually
Pretty much.
he like what was explained in the animation, which we'll get to after this, because we're doing it chronologically. Because Ichi 1 actually is a little bit before Ichi animation, though Ichi animation borrows
Are
from
they
this.
supposed to connect the two?
No, I don't think so at all. Because they're sort of slight adaptations, and Ichi the animation has more stuff in it that doesn't
Yeah.
exist in the books. And so
Oh, okay.
Ichi 1, the weird thing about like Tei's portrayal of Dai, I do think I don't think he's an actor. Like he's not really an actor because Takashi Miike says about him, it was funny because Takashi Miike said he's good when he's sort of playing himself, but when you try to have him act, he falls apart, which I thought was funny. And but Takashi Miike I think only produced this, and the guy who directed it I think was a second unit director on the original Ichi the Killer film. So the directing of it is fine. Like it seems like they had no time or no budget to really do anything. Because
Yeah,
like
that's the thing. Like, it's like this is a movie about like ultra violence and shit. Like, and it's showing people like throwing punches at each other. It looks like we're filming, a regular fight that me or you could
not
see.
even the fights are so horribly like choreographed. It's like they said, okay, just throw
Yeah.
punches at each other.
Like it's not like it actually looks like the way if you go to the park and you see people practicing fighting in
Right.
the park, like on your
I remember-
like that's what it looks like.
It reminds me when I was in junior high school and there was these two kids fighting, and I always called it the karate fight because it was like the most pathetic thing I ever saw. It was just two kids, like one kid was swinging in the air and this other kid was trying to do karate spin kicks, and I was like, what the hell is going on? It was like it was the most embarrassing thing I'd ever seen with like a fight. And then like it reminded me later on I saw this meme. There was this video of this kid. This kid obviously must have had some sort of I don't even know how to say it now in these political times, or you can't say shit, right? But this kid was different. Let's just say that. It was like a white kid who was different. I'm putting the quote fingers on his hands, fighting this black kid, right? It's so funny. I gotta send it to you because it's the greatest thing ever. It's sad, but it's funny. But the white kid is like, yeah, and he's like he's doing like the worst spin kicks ever. Like he must have seen some sort of
And
anime
the
and
black
thought
guy just punches through it. And
it's exactly what happens.
I've seen stuff like that too. It's hilarious.
Punches the kid and
it's very funny.
Which means I wonder what the storyline is. I wonder if that kid was bullying the kid who was doing spin kicks and they just made an ass out of him. But it's just like the funniest thing you'll ever see, even though it's sad.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's like the level of choreography in this film because it looks like the fighting looks so fucking awkward and goofy. Like at least in Ichi the Killer, like there was
I mean, it's
deft
all like super
camera work.
art. It's like not realistic, but it's like art, Like,
Right. It was definitely like the at least the way it was filmed.
like
It was
everything
quick
is
cutting.
supposed to be very like impactful, no matter how
Yeah,
silly
here-
it is. Like
Here, the camera stayed on a little bit too long on when because like now Omori who plays Ichi, like his spin kicks look so unbelievably bad in here. Like they just look so terrible. There's even a part like at the end before.
At one point, it looks like a separate leg came up.
Yeah, that's at the end. Like because obviously he can't hold his leg up for so long, and they just put like a prosthetic leg in the air. Like if he's holding it high, like he can do a high kick. Like you can see him in some scenes actually lift his leg up that high. But at the end, like he must have had to do it for a while. He was like, "Fuck, that would like fuck up a muscle in my leg or something." But but anyway, I think Dai's character is interesting, but he's not really deep or sort of moving. We just know that he has this sort of obsession with being number one, and his obsession also comes with how Ichi just sort of stares at him. You know what I mean? That because what we don't know is that Ichi, because he thinks that Ichi's laughing at him,
just like getting off of it.
Right, and Dai can't. He really, truly can't like take anybody laughing with him. So, but we don't know anything about that. We just know that he can't deal with people. You know, I guess that's a commentary on bullying and shit like that. Because if he did, but we don't know any of that. Like that's a comic book saying that Dai used to bully him, and here, like, because Dai doesn't really treat him like shit in the comic.
Well, I didn't
book.
take it that way. I just took it like this guy's super insecure and he can't handle.
Right. He's super insecure, so that's probably why he, is trying to be number one so hard. And we later find out that Ichi is turned on by violence, but he can only ejaculate when he kills something. So
I know the feeling.
That's from the animation. Who doesn't, right? Because there's even a scene that where like I think that Dai is so pent up that he can't even take a shit. Remember that scene where you see the toilet water and it's like. It's little drops of piss, and you see him trying to take a shit, and I was like, "Oh man!" Like I'm glad they didn't like follow up, and you see a big load of shit in the toilet. So it's mostly that. There's like a scene where Ichi's being bullied by it's like horrible like bully violence. Like when that guy's throwing when the guy's throwing like fastballs and hitting Ichi, I'm like that would kill somebody. Like that's not
even
fucking.
Even the little kids all being mean to him. It was so mean.
And we don't even get to see but we didn't even really see that in the original one either. Remember, we would talk about.
I don't believe little kids would do that.
Oh no, you'd be surprised. No, they definitely did. I'm sure there's many deaths to bullying. There's plenty of stuff that happens here and over there in Japan.
I don't know.
It happens. Believe me, it happens. There's there's a lot of stories of
little though, like with 4-year-olds and shit. Like they're like 6 or something.
Who knows? Who the fuck knows? But
well, I'm sorry.
I wouldn't put it past the human race, to do that. Do you know what I mean?
That's true.
So so Ichi's sort of relationship with him. Ichi, how would you explain now Omori's portrayal of Ichi in this version or this iteration of the series?
He's just this like cowardly, terrified person who has no control over his sexual urges.
Yeah, he doesn't, and I think he just doesn't know what to do with himself. Like a lot of it is more explained in the animation, but here
he's like
you don't.
Very uncomfortable. Like I would not want to be him.
he's like a Japanese Don Knotts. You know what I mean? From.
That's interesting. I like that.
But so with Tei's character, and then I guess we got his two lackeys, and then their girlfriends. That happens in the comic too. Like one of the girlfriends. Yeah, Onezame is this guy who comes in like the third act. He's like a villain that comes out in the last 10-15 minutes of the movie.
He's like a little bit likable because he's just like so cool with it, even though he's a terrible person.
He reminds me of, it's funny because he looks, I was trying to figure out who he looks like. He reminds me of this actor named Miles Teller. I don't know if you know who that is. Like Miles Teller was this guy in this movie called Whiplash. And like he's sort of like this smug actor. And he has a face just like this guy on Azumi, which is like a strange looking face.
So he literally was 29 in the making of this, just so you know.
Right.
I looked it up.
And the funny thing about that actor, Miles Teller, he like got a lot of backlash because he did some sort of article saying how good looking he is, and he just like get the fuck out of here. So people just like forget you, get the fuck out of here. So that for some reason I like put that on people who have like this sort of smug look on them, like Onezame. Like Onezame is a piece of garbage, but like a lot of people are pieces of garbage in this movie, honestly. So like, what's really worse? But I think as an audience, you're just
like
supposed to dislike him.
He's like a piece of garbage or something. I don't know.
And just like
a terrible woman, I'd be attracted to him. Put it that way.
And one of the terrible attractive women are. It's more like rape in this than it is attraction, I guess. In the comic book, it's a little bit more.
Well, it seems consensual. She's into it.
She's Well, yeah, I guess because in the comic book, the girl like just starts sucking his dick as opposed to just getting railed in the ass. But they do touch upon the little disgustingness of the original film because like he has to choke her to make her vagina clamp down on him,
Right.
and like when Dai comes in and kicks him, and you hear the audible pop of his penis coming out of her. It was like it's just funny. It was just so cartoonish and funny. And Onizame proceeds to. I did like that. That was his sort of superpower. Like he was able to break arms and shit, as opposed to just being a regular brawler. Like he knew
Yeah.
techniques of how to which made it more realistic because that's how it was in the comic book as well. Because if
That
you're
would
just
be a
throwing,
great superpower, just to be able to pop people's bones out of their sockets.
yeah, which is true, you can't do that. So it's not
No, I
like
know.
it doesn't
I want
exist.
to learn that superpower.
That'd be great, yeah. So it was interesting that his technique was like one that was believable as opposed to him sort of doing crane kicks and bullshit like that. Like he was able to direct somebody's force to
Yeah.
break their own arms and shit like that, which was funny. But like he's throwing students out of windows and shit. Just like wow,
And nobody cares.
nobody
cares.
does anything. Nobody says anything. Like if that one guy got his arms and legs broken by that student, you would report him, and then
And
you
then
know he'd have to
also-
go to jail
also
or
the
something.
thing that's amazing is he pops Dai's arm out of his socket, and then Dai's like throwing a punch at him like an hour later.
Yeah, it's funny. So at least Dai has determination to kick his ass. But the guy playing Chihara Jr. is good because he's like he's a real scumbag.
He's
It's
like
great.
a real asshole.
Yeah. So, but it was nice to see that this third act character just kind of comes in. I did want to talk about how the baseball scene, like they just kind of cut, and Ichi I guess must have beaten the shit out of everybody, and you just see the baseball bat with cum on it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the guys look dead, but nobody said anything. Like, there's a guy with his eyes clearly open, like he just got knocked into the next fucking lifetime. But nothing happened. Nobody reports anything. Nobody says anything. And this,
Well, I mean, they imply in the animated one that somebody's going around collecting the bodies to hide it or something.
yeah, and no, but that's like after. That's I guess I guess it
Well,
could
I
be,
don't
but
know. I mean, it seems like his sensei knows or something.
right, yeah, that's what I was remembering when I was surprised by this version because it's different according
Is the
to
sensei
what's
character
in.
like in the movie? I forget, like the main movie.
Yeah, his teacher, the one who catches him with a boner, and he's like looking at him with his boner.
No, I'm saying, is
in
he
the-
in the original? Like,
He's not in the Ichi the Killer, the film, no, because
Okay.
he's in the comic book though. But I don't think he's the same. I think it follows more of that girl, who's a pervert. That's the thing. They
Okay.
they leave aspects out of it, and put other stuff in it.
you're
Like
talking about the girl that he beats in the animated one.
yeah, because I think we're gonna hold that off. But I think if they didn't if they had the budget, I don't know why Ichi the Killer didn't have a budget. Maybe it didn't make money in Japan. You know what I mean? But it made enough
Ichi
in
the
America.
Killer, the original was fine. The budget.
Right, no, but that's what I'm saying. If they had a budget for these movies, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Well,
if they
the
did,
animated was fine. This was not.
that's that's what I'm saying. If Ichi the Killer, the live action, if they were able to do a proper prequel, do you know what I mean? Like an actual film. If they had, I guess, combined the animation film with this one, I think it would probably be equal to, not equal to, but at least just as good or entertaining as the original film, because the animated one is like, oh, it's closer to the book, as in how like disgusting and horrifying it is.
I liked
You know what I
it.
mean?
I thought it was.
Yeah, it's great. But anyway, so back to
I
this,
like
the
this too,
finale.
though, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting sort of. I think Ichi the Killer, the character and the storyline is so interesting that like you're like, oh, this is good because I've never seen like that. Like when I was finishing up the manga, people were like, oh my god, this comic is just violence is reprehensible. They're like, it's just about evil people beating up to death other evil people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but anyway, towards the end of it, Onizumi tries to fight Ichi, and there's more of that weird artsy fartsy shit that happens where like Ichi sees 2 Onizamis or 3 Onizamis, and we're like, what the hell's going on? And one thing you really had a problem with because after Onizami beats the shit out of Dai, puts him on a commission, Ichi beats the shit out of Onizami, and which is like I guess cathartic, and he he puts the bottom of his heel right into Onizami's head and kills him.
Yeah.
and then you had a problem because you saw die because he was screaming
Well, I was just
out by
confused
himself.
what
Yeah,
happened, but then when you said it was probably metaphorical, it's like,
yeah.
okay,
I
I
think
get
it was metaphorical. I assume because the movie continued and shit was still happening. Like nothing did, like it didn't end with him just talking to nobody. Because if it ended like that, then I'd be like, what the fuck did I just watch? But so the story actually kept continuing. But like the scene where Dai is like screaming alone and there's like no
Right.
blood or anything. I told Danny, I was like, that's probably more of a metaphorical thing of him
He's alone
always
in
being
life.
right. He's always in purgatory. Because remember, that's what happens to in the original film. That's what happens to Kakihara, the guy with the split in his mouth. That he's
Right.
that scene of him alone, like in some sort of chasm of hell or some shit like that, with his mouth open. Like, so I think that's the same thing that happens here. I'm just taking a guess. But
I
Ichi
should
did.
rewatch that movie.
Yeah, it's on Shutter, so I know I'm gonna rewatch it. But Ichi definitely killed that guy because that's how the comic book ended too. It literally ends when but it's different because in this one he puts the bottom of his heel on the guy's head and cracks it, which is like really disgusting. But they do. I like the artsy way that they did it, where it froze and it like the colors were negative and shit like that. But in the comic book, Ichi like does the same thing, but he kicks the guy to like one of the guardrails over the roof. But his neck goes all the way back, like it snaps backwards, and it just like that's how he kills him.
Okay.
And so we'll pick up where the anime comes because the anime sort of doesn't really do that, but it does its own thing. But I appreciated that.
What do you want to rate this one? Should we rate them individually?
Yeah. I'll give it a 7 out of 10 because it is entertaining. I think what happens is it lowered a bit because of
Budget.
just how sort of cheap looking budget issue wise, and then some of the directing was a little bit strange. Like I didn't think it was bad directing necessarily, but you can tell they sort of rushed it and had no proper way to make this movie. And also having read the comic book, which is in the comic book there was shit you can adapt literally one for one and it would have been really good. But they left out a lot of stuff and they focused on Dai being the lead as opposed to Ichi being the lead, where Ichi's the lead in the comic book. Because I guess they were afraid of having the sniveling loser as the lead character, and he wasn't like that. He's not like that in the comic. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Having an audible pop of a penis retracting from a vacuumous vagina. What rating would you give one?
I can't really top that.
What rating would you give One Ichi 2003?
I'm gonna give it a 6.5 out of 10 because the budget and because they could have focused more on Ichi and less on Mr. Dai or whatever. Anyway,
Yeah.
6.5 out of 10. Having your arm popped out of its socket, then like an hour later having your arm broken, and still being able to use your arm in another fight.
I will
Hour
say,
after that.
Dai becomes an underdog, and he's an inspirational character. So I wonder what happens to his character after. But it was
know.
certainly interesting. So with that, we move on to Ichi the animation, episode 0, 2002. So this is obviously an animated retelling of which is weird because it fits chronologically. I guess it fits after the live action one, but they add a bunch of different elements that weren't in the actual comic book. Because I went back and I read the prequel. I had read the prequel a long time ago, but I forgot about it. And then I reread it, and it's not like this. Like what they added 2 aspects. And Danny, why don't you explain a little bit the plot of Ichi the Killer, the animation, episode 0? What's going on in this one? This is like
it starts out with him like fully who he is, killing somebody, and then it shows
which
that,
is essentially which was the real ending of the first movie. But go ahead.
right, and then it cuts to I guess his like prequel, which is basically just a half an hour of the worst life in the world. It's
Yeah.
just I didn't know his name was
Shiroishi?
No, Hashim. I didn't know his first name. I actually didn't know that Ishii was part of.
Oh,
his last
Hajime,
name.
right? Isn't it Hajime?
Yeah.
I think it is.
Hajime Shir. Because when his parents are calling it. So basically, it's just this kid who everybody's mean to him. His parents are horrible. He hears them fucking each other and beating each other all the time.
BDSM, where yeah, I guess that's supposed to explain his obsession with masochism and violence and getting hard-ons and stuff like that.
And
So the,
it's terrible, actually. You feel very bad for him.
and I think the violence in this is equal to the original live action film, the original Ichi the Killer film
Yeah.
from 2001, because it's like graphic.
Maybe
And
not
this is how,
equal, but it's comparable, at least.
yeah, right, because the you don't actually see the violence happen for the most part in Ichi the Killer. Just sort of you see it aftermath, and here you actually see him like killing people and fucking people up. Like, because I remember I saw this a long time ago, right? And I was like, Jesus Christ! Like, I thought this and the original live action film, they capture the comic book. I think this captures obviously the comic book more than the film does, because the film sort of went this artistic slant, which is great. It's still
See, I haven't read the comics. So
right.
I
The
can't say,
the original live
I'll
action
trust
film
you.
definitely captured the spirit, but it was also in a sense of like how American Psycho adapted from the novel, because the novel for American Psycho is a million times more disturbing than the film was. But the movie still had the sense of it without getting into such humongous graphic violence.
Right.
So it's just the way the adaptation is. Because when I saw this, I was like, yeah, this is probably the proper adaptation of it. Although I prefer the live action original film, obviously. But if they were to ever it's sort of like Faust. Going to talk about Faust again. That horrible adaptation of that comic book. If you look at the comic, it's the most depraved one of the most depraved comics I've ever read, and we're stuck with the live action film was less than stellar adaptation. You didn't know how to do it, but I think this animation captures like 1-to-1 more of the violence and the depravity of it, which the live action movie did too. But there were two things that were created solely for this film, which is weird.
What's those?
The parents were never really. I don't think they were mentioned in the comic, from what I saw.
Okay.
I think that I think they don't exist in the comic book. I'm not sure. I might be mixing it up because I read the comic before I saw the animation again, and I know. I don't think they don't exist in the comic book as far as I know. So that whole thing I think was just made up to explain why Ichi's perverted and shit. Like he's into
Right.
BDSM.
I don't know if that kind of shit's like genetic though.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like some sort of chemicals in the brain that get fucked up. And then also the guy blackmailing him to not say anything about him killing all the animals and
I
shit.
like that character though. Well, I mean, I like him as a character, not as a person, obviously.
So I'm astonished of why you would like a character like that. But
No, I'm just saying. I thought it was important to show.
Oh, okay, yeah, I knew what you mean. So he doesn't exist either.
You think
Like,
he has a friend finally, and it's like, oh no, he's terrible.
yeah, he doesn't exist. I think what they did is they just changed around Anizame from the comic, and they turned him into
Yeah.
that character, because obviously you don't see Dai in this at all, like in the prequel. So
Right.
that he was completely made up for this, just to show, oh, this is your friend, this is my friend, but this guy's just blackmailing me.
He has
So
literally nobody nice to him. Even the
I
guy that acts nice to him is actually bad.
because I had actually seen the Japanese dub, which is very good. The American one dub is not that bad actually either. It's sort of over the top, but the Japanese dub obviously is much better. And like I said, Takashi Miike plays Kakihara. So it starts out like when we saw, remember Ichi the Killer, the original film from 2001.
Yeah, but I'm a little rusty on it, to be honest.
Right. It's a bit more ambiguous of what happens at the end of that. We had a whole conversation of Kakihara like probably killing himself instead of Ichi killing him.
Right.
In this one, they actually show, this is what Ichi does. He actually cuts Kakihara and fucks him up, cuts his arm off, and then I remember at the end of it, Kakihara has his arm chopped off, and he gets kicked so hard that he flies over the railing and holds onto it with one hand, and I think Ichi throws his, because he has that special boot with the knife on it, or the thing on it.
I love that boot.
And it cuts off Kakihara's fingers, so Kakihara is only holding himself up with one finger, like the ring finger, and then a bird shits on his hand. That's what makes him fall to his death, which I wish they would have put in here. But they do at least show what happened. Like, it's a little bit more straightforward as opposed to they went to that weird artistic route with the live action film. Because the funny thing is, like, Kakihara, at least in both, like, he gets scared because he's like, this guy who was like used to being, this disgusting animal to people and killing them and shit. Kakihara's only in this for like one scene. You know what I mean? But they do capture that part. Yeah, they do capture that part where he's like, holy shit, this guy's gonna fucking kill me, Because he likes getting beat up and all that shit, but in this, like, when he realizes this motherfucker's gonna fucking kill him, he's like, oh, fuck, I'm done for. So that was nice to see that. Then you see Ichi just beats the flying shit out of him and cuts him up, and he cuts him up and so his clothes fall off. And then he finally has this shibari is the sexual technique when you're, like, tied up. Like, it's a Japanese thing. It's called shibari.
I thought that was binding. Or, I don't know.
I guess that's might be just the Japanese term for it. It's probably the same thing. But like they still didn't show the part where he cuts him his clothes off and then his dick is severed in half because of it. They just show the blood dropping down to imply what happened. So, but anyway, that's not really important. That's just the opening of the film, which is awesome because that kind of recaps the people who went to see this anyway. They wanted to see Kakihara in it because even Kakihara is like the most interesting character in the live action film. Because he's like Joker before the Joker.
You
do you know what I mean?
Think that he's the guy? Like, if you don't know anything about it, like I always assumed he was Ichi because I didn't.
Yeah, well, yeah. When I was younger, yeah, he's the selling point of the movie. Like, if you don't know what Batman was and all the shit they did with Joker, you would think Joker was Batman. That's basically what it is. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
So we start out this film with Gigi, who was in the original film, played by Shinya Tsukamoto, who directed Tetsuo, the Iron Man movie that we re-reviewed a long time ago. So he's this guy. I think he in the original book he was a 30-year-old guy, but he got facial construction to make him look older for some fucking reason. But he is a sponsor of Ichi. Like he's looking for a killer. The whole point of Gigi's character is that he wants to clean up all the crime, I guess, in Tokyo. But it's sort of an unending. He's using depraved pieces of shit to do his work.
Good guy, technically?
No, he's still a bad person. He's just No,
I mean I know he's a bad person, but he's I'm using quote marks. A good
guy.
Yeah,
I guess he is a good guy. I assume because I don't think he necessarily goes to kill innocent people, but he's corrupting innocent people to do his work. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So I guess that's it. Because I don't like Ichi's not necessarily innocent, but he's sort of
Well, he's not innocent, but he's definitely not. I don't know. He's like you feel bad for him.
So I mean, as you see how when we talked about one Ichi the animation, I mean the live action one, the prequel. Like, do you see how Ichi is in this one? Do you see how he's not like, every 5 seconds?
Human, yeah.
Right. This is how he acts.
I
like,
mean, he's kind of a normal human, but you know what I mean. Like,
right. He's able to mask it up a little bit more because he doesn't like the thing about Nao Mori, the guy who plays live action Ichi. There's something in his face. Like he just looks pathetic. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just like he constantly looks pathetic, and I guess they did a good casting job with it. But in here, he looks like a normal sort of good-looking kid, but he's obviously very fucked up. And Gigi decides to, this is obviously the film is taught is in the animation. It's two different timelines, and we're just seeing them both play out at the same time. Because at the beginning of it, he's being let out of a sort of, I guess, a prison holding for young men. Because this is already after he's killed his parents and after he's killed that student.
And the guy that gets him is Gigi, like.
Yeah, that's Gigi. That's he's just wearing a wig. And because he's able to do hypnotism, like in the other film, he hypnotizes people and plays with their emotions.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, that's how he got Ichi to do anything. He would take the real things that happened to Ichi and then fuck around with them as to make them worse than it is. That's why the whole reason, like, the whole sort of origin of Ichi is that he got bullied to the point where he couldn't take it anymore, and he sort of had a mental break, and that's what Gigi used to hypnotize him, saying, "Oh, you see that guy over there that you got to kill? That guy used to bully you in grade whatever." So that's what Ichi did.
Bullying is bad, everybody.
It is.
Don't
it is.
Do it. This is how you get Ichi the Killer.
So Ichi in this is a kid who's constantly bullied. He's getting his ass kicked by the. I wish he had kicked the shit out of those 3 fucking assholes that were bullying him. But I don't know if they were versions of Dai and everybody else because they had different names. So there's no real other characters that are ported over here. Even like his sensei isn't the guy that sort of says, "Hey, this is your guy." They turn it to that young girl who's in his or not young girl, but the woman in his karate class, and we see What would you say his relationship with his family is in this?
I mean, it's pretty horrible. They're very mean to him all the time. They definitely deserve to be killed. Like, honestly, I was happy when it happened.
And his little brother is like a little shit.
Did he kill his
also,
brother though?
I don't know. Yeah, they didn't. They didn't.
Wasn't that bad.
Yeah, they didn't say it. They didn't say that he killed his brother. They just said that he killed his parents.
It's normal for brothers to fight like that. It's not normal for parents to treat their kids that way.
Yeah, they didn't kill his. I don't think they killed his brother because they didn't specifically say it. They just said his parents and another student. So I would assume his brother made it out, but I'm sure his brother saw that and was not normal after that. You know what I mean? He was like, holy shit balls. I won't talk. I won't say my brother stole anything ever again. But we do see things like when Ichi has to open up the frog, which I don't understand because when we had to dissect frogs, we didn't fucking kill. Yeah, we don't kill frogs. That's like animal cruelty or something, I think.
Yeah, we didn't kill it either. It was already.
I don't know if they do that in Japan, but I
a cat in my fucking high school.
Oh boy, was it delicious! But
yes.
that's a little bit too much for me. Like a fucking cat is
it was freaky, but once you start, it's just like, okay, it's just meat.
Did it look rubbery, or was it like with the skin on it?
It was all matted down, the hair. It was a cat. It was a fucking cat.
That's a little bit too much. That's disturbing.
Yeah, no. It was, I mean, there were a lot of kids who couldn't do it. I don't even know how the fuck we ended up doing that, and it was in human anatomy class. That's what the weird thing was.
That'd be fun if it was a giant prank. And like the teacher was like, "You believe what these kids did?" Like,
but it was actually the teacher's like ex-girlfriend's cat. He was doing it to get revenge.
And he calls her up. He goes, "Terry, you bitch, I killed your cat." Ah! He starts laughing and shit. And then the rest of you kids are like, "What's going on here?" But we do see Ichi like at his job being bullied and shit. We see Ichi at his job being bullied, and it like cuts to him being bullied. That reminds me of like in the film version, he's working at the restaurant. At least he's able to get work, I guess. But he's working at the restaurant.
Did Gigi get him the job?
Yeah. But in the live action movie too, like his boss tells him like, why don't you kill yourself? And that happens here too.
He's so harsh.
I remember the funniest joke in the live action film is when his boss is like trying to throws him on the floor and starts giving him shit. And then I don't know if you remember the cop character. Like, he walks up to him, and the restaurant is like, "Hey, well, who the fuck are you?" You know what I mean? Because he's trying to stop him. The cop says, "Oh, I'm from Anjigumi." And the guy just turned around and left because he didn't want to fuck with the mafia. It was like one of the funniest jokes in that movie. But here, he has no mafia here helping him in this one. And we're seeing Ichi just you're seeing a character get shit on, like, every 5 seconds. And
yeah, it's really upsetting. It's just like non-stop. It's basically like the animated version of the Joker or something.
Yeah. And the animation is like, it's serviceable. It's like really cheap animation, but it's serviceable for this.
It wasn't so bad.
You can tell it's cheap when the little brother was playing a video game and it cuts to live action of some of the worst, like the two wrestlers fighting.
Oh,
and it's like the worst graphics. They should have just had a piece of paper with drawings on it because that was terrible. But his parents are like perverts and they're into BDSM and I guess that's what it's supposed to be, and graphic sex too. And he's just like, it's just fucking him up, and Ichi just wants to. That part where he sees the cat in the road. Maybe this is part of your origin too, because he finds a cat who got hit by a car, and the cat bites him.
I think it was a bunny.
No, it's a cat. No, it's a cat. The first time he sees a cat, and he fucking stomps it to death because it bit his finger. So we're seeing that if anybody inflicts violence to him, and it's like a graphic, like the cat's head is all into pieces. And like, it's weird because to this I was like comparing it to Midori. Remember that animation we saw about the little girl in the circus?
Yes.
That
was a horrible one too. Everybody in that was horrible.
That's what I like about Japanese animation. Like, they just go right to it. They just show it.
These people are the worst people on earth. Like, they are.
In Midori, you mean, not Japanese
in Midori. No, in this too.
I think you're gonna say some giant racist shit. These Japanese
shit. No. I mean the characters.
So I was trying to figure out which was more disturbing animation, Midori or this.
Midori.
Right. I think thematically this is more disturbing, but I guess Midori, because Midori's like getting raped, and she's like that's like a full like innocent character just being fucked with. You know what I mean? As opposed to this guy where he's like depraved.
At least in this, it's like that Ichi.
Yeah, like Ichi really
is a bad guy. Like,
but it's weird. Yeah, because he's not like, I don't think he's intentionally a bad guy, but he is cruel to animals. Because I think what it is that when he kills that cat, he gets a boner and jizzes.
Well, whatever the reason is, I mean, Charles
Yeah,
Manson has an origin story. Everybody has a sad story,
That's true.
but what they
Charles,
end up doing, it's still
Charles
bad.
Manson
So,
couldn't be a rock star, so that's what made him go crazy.
I'm just saying, like, all these serial killers have been, like, abused and shit.
Yeah, right.
It makes sense why they're insane. Like,
He's like, I can't be a rock star. Let me start a race war and have a bunch of actors killed. What the hell? Anyway, so Ichi is like, he goes and I guess he has this new feeling because he couldn't control. He jizzed by killing something, and that's when he goes and he kills all those rabbits. And then that one student finds that out, and so he starts making Ichi pay him daily. Like, you think it'd be like, okay, at least a week you could pay me off every day. Daily, like getting paid money every fucking day, and he's just becoming this dickhead
I had to
him.
pay someone daily, and I never even killed a rabbit.
Really, you had a bully like that?
In the 7th grade for like a few months, and then it just stopped. I guess somebody else like said something to him, but then I found out that this guy's dad like beat him and shit, like all this kind of stuff. So it's like, oh, that makes sense.
I'm gonna tell were you slightest happy about that when you found that his dad?
I mean,
beat him?
as a kid, yeah, but like
same thing with me. I remember this is a story I never really tell anybody, but there was this kid who like he was a neighbor of mine, and he like I guess he bullied me. Like one time I was like on my he was like a neighbor. He was supposedly like, I guess it's a friend bully sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like I don't have anybody to talk to, so he was sort of my friend. And then like I was like a kid, okay. So then I was on my scooter, and he just pushed me off into like this mud, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" And then later on, remember, I was like in my parents' room, and we can see the other apartments across from the window, and I heard him like, "This is not funny." I know I'm laughing when I'm saying it, but this is the kid who sort of bullied me. And I hear him, like, you could hear him across, because I guess he was right at the window, right across from us, from, like, it was a couple of feet away from us. Yeah. And he'd go, "No, mommy, no!" Ah! And his mother beating the shit out of him. And I was like, yeah, like that. It was like...
You're terrible.
But then I remember
as a little kid, of course, I understand.
And
but then as an adult, it's like...
no. I think it's even funnier. No, it's not funny. This is terrible. I don't stand with it. Terrible. And then... But I did appreciate one time my cousin came over and I told him what that kid had did. He beat the living shit out of him. Oh. And the kid ran out of so he knew not to do that. Yeah, it was funny. I mean, it's not funny. It's terrible. It's awful. How could children cheat each other this way? So anyway, back to this film. Ichi, what did you think of his characterization in this one as opposed to the live action prequel?
I mean, I like this version better. It's like a little more like grounded.
Yeah, it's more than one dimensional. I think I prefer his characteristics in this one because it seems like they don't know how to deal with his character in live action films, and so they make him secondary. Like in Ichi the Killer, the film, he's more of a and the prequel, he's more of a force of nature than he is a character.
Yeah,
he's just
like
sort of crying all the time
because
they don't know, because like obviously Kakihara is the lead character in that one, and then Dai is the lead actor in the prequel, so you don't really see Ichi. And in this one he's more the primary character, you know what I mean? He's like the main character of the fucking of the animation. Yeah, and you get to see him.
In the comic, is he the main character?
Yeah, he is the main character. It's called fucking Ichi, so he's the main character. Although in Ichi the Killer, he's still more of a force of nature in the comic book of that. But we do know him. You get to see him, and in this one, you get to see more depth to his character, and it's interesting. It's like Batman the animated series and stuff. You got to know Bruce Wayne. You got to know that character, as opposed to like in the movie, you still know him because you got the Bruce Wayne persona, but the Bruce Wayne persona is fake. It's not real. Batman is the real persona. Right. So with this, like Ichi, when his bully punches him, I thought it was so satisfying that he kicked the fucking kid to death. Like he just stomped him. And the interesting thing about the animation, it's like, because it's animation, like, and you're not used to seeing this in animation, it's really disturbing that when people get killed in this. Like when he's kicking that bully to death, and his eyes just vanish. There's just like something. Cool. They were super unsettling, and then like. That girl and then he kills his parents by beating to death with a bat and shit like that, and it's just like holy fuck. And I guess he must have gotten arrested right after that because, like I said, it's parallel storytelling. So why don't we discuss the girl that becomes his friend in the karate class. What's her deal?
Is that Midori?
Yeah, I
Is that
think it's
her?
Midori.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of like this would be like somebody's biggest kink. He really is not understanding what a gift he's been given.
Yeah, right.
As
She's
a
sort of
person
the
who gets turned on by this sort of thing.
she's sort of the female Kakihara in a sense that she loves violence towards her, but
Yeah,
she knows
and
how.
he's a person who gets turned on by violence, and
Yeah,
he's
so
just not appreciating it because he's like too young or something.
because like a lot of the female characters in these books, they really do get a short shrift, and I guess she's the closest thing that we'll ever get to the series of having a competent like female lead that's not just sort of like eye candy,
So
you know,
she's part of like Gigi's gang of.
Yeah,
she's,
right.
Like, knowingly part of it.
Because
She
like when
knows
those
she's part of it.
when those two guys are like threatening to rape her and shit, or they were like trying to force her to come into a hotel room with them, and she beats the shit out of that one guy, like chokes him out.
Yeah.
Like at least she, you know what I mean? She wasn't like, because in the, in the Ichi the Killer the movie, she did all the women in there are just like fucking like they're just like pieces of meat that are like to be slaughtered and shit. That's all they are. In this
Right.
one, at least she's like a pervert and she owns it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
at
no,
least
she's cool. I kind of like
she
her character.
yeah, I like her
actually.
character because she's in control of it as opposed to just being some, just being a target for everybody else. And this one,
But she is like a knowing, willing member of Gigi's thing.
Yeah,
without
yeah, yeah.
hypnotism or anything like this. Like,
and she can only come the more she gets beat upon. I can never like. I don't understand the
I'm like
appeal
a
of
big pussy with pain. I
me
don't
too.
like it.
Oh, yeah. Same here, because I remember like one being in a relationship with some girl, and she says, "Oh, you can, why don't you do something to me like you're R-ing me? You know what R means? I'm not gonna say the
Yes.
word." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Oh boy, what have I stepped into?" And
Yeah.
so this girl's
Yeah,
like
I'm
that
not-
too.
I couldn't do that. I couldn't do
Yeah, that's a little bit too much for me. Like,
It would just make me feel really like I'd be like, I'm sorry, please, are you okay?
in that situation, you revert to like you revert to a 1950s Christian, like, oh boy, what in the world are you talking about, lady? This is let's go read the Bible, you know. But I like that Midori in here is like she wants to get her ass kicked because that's the only way she can, I guess, come. And her whole
Right.
body is scarred up, and the Ichi, he can't jizz because he hasn't killed anybody. And I like that her eyes, like, I guess to show the inhumanity, they take the pupil out of the eye, the dot of the eye. They just leave it sort of this glazed look, and they
Right.
decide to Ichi like can't jizz, so he just like walks out and sits at a chair in the fucking.
Has he tried having actual sex? No, I don't think he has.
He did it in the live action, the original film. Like he makes that girl suck his dick, so I guess he's able to. I don't know, but like they just he makes that the prostitute that he slits her throat and cut her boyfriend in half. He gets a blowjob in
I
that.
don't have some terrible sex fetish like this.
I know I would have a real
Like
issue.
my fetishes are so like tame compared to those,
Comparatively, I'm sure anybody else is. But in this one, I think it's more clear the adaptation of the comic book because this is also from the prequel comic book. Most of this is from the prequel, especially these bullies parts or these
And the
guys
prequel
trying to
came
fuck them up.
before the. I mean, it actually was in consecutive order, or the prequel was written after.
I have no clue. I don't know because maybe the animation came before it or something. I don't know when this came. Let me see.
No, this came after the movie, but I'm saying
the
comic-
animation came out before the prequel. So because I see it came out in 2002, and then the live action prequel came out in 2003.
What I'm asking you is the comics. Were they written in sequential order?
Oh yeah. No, it was in sequential order. So this is
Okay.
adapting most of it. I guess that's why they must have put in just to make it shorter. They put in the parents and they put in the guy blackmailing him because they didn't want to put the whole high school. It's not. I guess it's not as tantalizing to have him in high school with bully stuff as opposed to
Right.
you just see his parents are fucking perverts and shit like that, which would it's like a quick way to explain it. But this is like this stuff with the guys that are confronting him and the girl, like that's in the prequel comic book. So like when he kicks that guy's fucking jaw and it falls, like it's like really
Yo, I love
disturbing. And like the other thing that's weird is that that first guy, the huge guy with the backpack says, "Oh, where's this guy? Where's this guy?" He comes up and Ichi just kicks him and his head goes backward and he's like, "Hey, why are you guys upside down?" Because his head is like snapped. That's how the bully died in the original comic. In the prequel comic, I mean the actual prequel comic book, that guy pulled out a knife and I guess he thrust it toward Ichi to kind of scare him, and Ichi kicked the knife in his hand back into his throat, and that's how he died. That's how you see blood shoot out. And here, I guess he just broke his neck.
So it's like he killed himself.
Yeah, but they didn't. And here, he just kicks him in the neck and kills him. And then when he kicks that guy's jaw, and the guy's jaw, like, I can't tell you how disturbed I was when I first saw it, because then the guy's on the floor and his jaw does that little animation where it snaps and goes loose, and I was like, ooh. But the funniest one is the blonde guy who got choked out, and Ichi chases him, and he kicks him so hard down the front of his head that his head breaks in half. It was the funny. I never laughed so hard.
Yeah, I do enjoy that kind of like really over the top violence.
Because it was like Fist of the North Star and shit. Like, I don't know, you've never seen Fist of the North Star. I wish we should talk about that, because that Fist of the North Star. Fist of the North Star is like this animated version. It looks like Story of Ricky. Like, it's just that.
Enough. We might as well.
It's fantastic, and also it's like a post-apocalyptic America or wherever the fuck it is in Japan, I guess. But in this, like, before the guy got his head split in half, like, he was so scared he took his sneaker off and threw it at Ichi, which hit him in the face, and that's what really pissed him
more. Which is really funny.
Yeah, so I mean, that part is just like, that's very accurate to the comic book, like the stuff with the parents and the I do think that it works well for this. But I mean,
I don't know the comic book, so I saw it and I thought, okay, cool, this is a story. Like, I didn't think anything.
Like, the way that the climate is now, with people sort of getting canceling for shit, and you can't make this.
Who get sensitive should watch this.
Oh no, this is not.
Obviously not. There's like rapes and violence and murder, like, you know.
Yeah, this is certainly not for like those who like
in the
triggered.
horror movie world, you can't like be triggered easily, I guess. Like, it's just common sense. Like,
right, because it's fake, you know. All this shit is like a release. Like, I'm not watching
why people don't like the idea that women are only fodder to be raped and harmed.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like,
because
I agree, actually. Like,
because if you look behind, if you really think about stuff behind, it's like, why did this guy write this with? You know, you're like, what is that? It's sort of like, you know, whenever I bring up
every Stephen King book have
the N-word in it
800 times.
And then it's also like remember when I talk about most movies made by special effects people, they tend to have women being slashed in half with their tits hanging out. I was like, what's up with this? Like, I'm always like, why do we have to see? Like, I'm not for censoring anything.
It doesn't offend me, but it's just kind of
it makes you wonder. You're like,
maybe I'd be
absolutely, because those women are just like, their tits getting chopped off, and you see their pussies getting, and you're like, what is going on with these people? Like, I'm not in for censoring it, but I can understand if you're like a woman or a person, you know, in any situation that's like seeing
if I was a woman, I would just have a female serial killer chopping guys' dicks off. That's
which they should. Why not? You know what I mean?
Well, make movies like that. Good.
Yeah. It's like that movie that I don't know if we ever reviewed it, but it was this movie called The Taint. No, I don't think we ever reviewed it.
Oh,
but it's about
I remember this being promoted though.
Right. The trailer for it was like women just getting destroyed because it was this disease that made men kill all women. Like,
right.
And you're like, holy fuck, this is like a misogynistic movie. But the latter half of the film, the main character is just shooting every guy in the dick. And so every dick is like exploding. So I guess it's supposed to lead up to that. So, but yeah, so if you're like really sensitive, or I guess I hate the phrase triggered, because it's just like everybody's triggered by something. But if this one, like, they can't. They would probably never redo this film. Like, I think this is the only 3 versions of this thing we'll ever see, because this is still, to me, like, the comic, like, is the most depraved, as opposed, like,
I think I want to read the comic the more you talk about it.
Oh, the comic is fucking great. The comic is 20 times more disturbing than the movies are. And I would recommend seeing I think they did a great job with all 3 of these films. The prequel, the animation, and the live-action film. Obviously, the live-action film being the first.
What do you want to rate?
I would give this one actually a 9 out of 10, just because of how close it is. Like, the animation is not that, you know, great, but it's still good. Like, it's serviceable for what it is. It could have been a lot worse. The storyline is good. We get what we wanted to know, because you kind of go in knowing what Ichi the Killer is when you see this, and they give you sort of what you don't get in the prequel film. Do you know what I mean? Because, like I said, if they made a live-action film, they would have to condense this and the live-action prequel, and then they would have a solid movie that's comparable to the original one. So I would give this a 9 out of 10. Getting so afraid of a man who just broke one guy's neck and then destroyed another guy's face and killed him, and throwing your shoe at him. They do that in a lot of Middle Eastern countries. That's supposed to be the worst offensives to throw a shoe. Remember George Bush, and he dodged it. But so that's my rating for it. What's your rating for Ichi the Killer episode 0, the animation? The animation.
I rate this 8 out of 10. Meeting your soulmate, a woman. You're a man who can only get orgasm from violence. And you meet a woman who can only orgasm from violence, and you don't know what to do with it. It's so overwhelming, but hopefully you'll get there one day.
Isn't that what we all want? And with that, Danny, what's the final word?
Psychopath.
The HorrorDeconstruction.